Welcome to Why Airplanes Crash. My name is Christer Harje. I'm a former pilot, flight instructor, simulator instructor, and on this episode we're going to analyze aviation crashes and incidents from a human factor perspective.
Emergency crews on the scene of a deadly plane crash.
Still coming in this morning.
And today we're going to investigate the UTAir 579 flight from Moscow to Sochi on the 31st of August 2018. Local time, it's just past midnight. And in the area of Sochi, there is an area of thunderstorms with hail, with heavy rain and various winds. Sochi is also very known for have those thunderstorms, especially in the summertime. And the epicenter of this thunderstorm is just located over the airport. It's pretty stationary over the airport. So now the UTAir 579 coming in for the first approach attempt, and the approach is pretty normal. They basically following the SOP, and when they're coming closer to the airport, they coming into the final. It's a bit turbulence, it's a bit of a wind, but everything is normal. And then suddenly they have wind shear head, which is just an information to the pilots, and it's up to them if they want to continue or not. But they continue. It is Boeing 737-800 aircraft. And they continue the approaching the ground, and now they have the next warning coming in, which is wind shear, pull up, which is an immediate information to the pilot to abort the approach. But they don't. They continue the approach. And it's the first officer who initially is the pilot flying, and when they approach the ground, he hands over to the captain, so the captain becomes pilot flying, and they continue approach. They have another warning, wind shear warning, and at a very, very, very late stage, they are just around the minimum altitude. Then the captain decides to abort, and he then gives full thrust and make a go around from the first approach. He abandoned the first approach. So they are now going around on the first approach. They're going back up to flight level 100, and in the meantime the air traffic controller updates them on the weather, and the weather is the very various winds with turbulence, and they also got informed that other aircrafts making go-arounds. Some other aircraft also make a diversion to the alternate airport. However, this crew, they continue climb out to flight level 100, and during the climb out they're most likely a little bit stressed because they have issues with engaging the autopilot. And eventually they get the autopilot in, and they come out to flight level 100, and they are then coming in for the second approach. The weather is no different, same weather as before, and this time the captain is the pilot flying. So they go in for the second approach, and when they approach the ground, they had the almost exact as the first one. So first they have the wind shear warning, they continue, and later on they have then wind shear head, go around. They just ignore that warning. Instead, the captain and the first officer start talking like, shall we continue? Yeah, shall we try to fake it or something like that? So they continue, and the speed is now going up and down, various speeds. They continue the approach, and eventually they make a long landing far into the runway, and they can't stop the aircraft. And the captain now is very late with the reverse. He doesn't even touch the reverse initially. However, the first officer, he gives the standard call-outs, and one of them is reversers unlocked, which they're not. But he just say that because he almost always say that. And then the captain tried to brake the aircraft. He can't do it, so they depart the runway in a very high speed and land beyond the runway. And now they start evacuating the aircraft. So, the analysis of the UTAir 579 crash in Sochi. Several contributing factors. One of them is the time of the day. It's the middle of the night, it's about 2 o'clock, something like that local time. The crew have been working for about 5 hours. They have done one missed approach. It's poor weather, a lot of turbulence. And of course, that creates an increased workload. Also, the decision making will be affected by the fact that you have this weather situation. Of course, they have an alternate airport where the weather is acceptable, and they can at any time abort this approach and divert to the alternate. Every pilot can do that. And of course you should do that. Afterwards, everybody can say, yeah, why didn't you divert? Anyway, they do one approach, and in the approach they have first the wind shear information, which is up to the pilots to decide, and then you have wind shear ahead go around, which then is a compulsory abort action. This crew didn't do it. The pilot in command, he decided to continue even though they had this warning. Eventually they did the first go around at the very late stage and went up for the second approach. In the meantime, they have information from the tower that several airlines are going around, diverting, which in a way could be a little bit easier for the captain to take the decision to do an abortion and diversion. Anyway, the captain decides we make another approach. And why does he decide to make another approach in these conditions? Perhaps some pressure from the company, perhaps some pressure from himself. The last flight of the day, they were they're going to end up this day, which also is, all of these are pressures to continue. Even though you should abort an approach when you have, especially when you have these wind shear conditions. I would say, yes, some poor leadership, a little bit of poor situational awareness, a little bit poor communication. CRM is not good either. And there's an experienced captain, experienced pilot, first officer. But the first officer doesn't really challenge the captain, not the way I would like to see it. So they sort of trigger each other to continue the approach. And once you have started to make poor decisions, it's kind of, have you done the first bad decision? It's sort of, when the second decision comes up, it's easy to say, I just continue now. And they went on and on and on. And finally, they're on final. They have this wind shear situation. They're in the epicenter of the wind shear. And they get suddenly about 25 knots tailwind. And they're coming in long into the runway. However, an airline crew can make a go-around. You can even touch down on the runway and then make a safe go-around. So you can make a go-around at any point at stage, but it doesn't. They fail to do the go-around. So they're pushing the aircraft down to the runway. It's the captain who's the pilot flying, and he brakes the aircraft. And just after touchdown on an airline, you're supposed to take the reversers, meaning you pull two handles, one on each throttle, so you reverse the jet flow on the engine to help you brake. He doesn't do that. He don't do the reverse until very late in, when the engines are at idle, when it's actually too late. So they leave the runway end in a very high speed, coming into a rough area. There's several injured passengers. They evacuate the aircraft, but everybody survives this crash. And my final words on this one. I would say poor leadership, poor situational awareness, poor communication, poor corporate culture, and also a very poor timing of the day in the middle of the night. And of course, the weather is a contributing factor. You should, as a pilot in command, abort the flight when it's not safe.